Sold to the Alpha King. Chapter 9. A thunderous crash shook the fortress walls, followed by a surge of footsteps and steel clashing in the corridor. Shattered wood and flying debris filled the entryway as the main gate collapsed under the conspirators' assault. Warriors shouted, struggling to form a defensive line. The tang of fear mingled with the metallic scent of blood. Alara stood shoulder to shoulder with Ezra. Her heart raced, and a tingling current of power hummed in her veins. She could sense the raw hostility of the intruders as they poured through the breach. In any other moment, the sheer numbers would have stunned her. Now, guided by Asina's calm presence, she summoned her magic, determined to protect the fortress that had come to feel like home. Ezra's voice rose above the din. "Hold the line. Damien, cover the left flank. Lucas, secure the corridor behind us. Don't let them spread out." Damien shouted orders to a cluster of warriors while Lucas barked instructions to another squad. Alara inhaled shakily as the first wave of conspirators charged. There were too many to count, their eyes lit with a dangerous zeal. She braced her hands before her, letting the faint glow of her magic form a barrier across the hall. Several attackers slammed into the invisible wall, jolted by the impact. They stumbled back, cursing in confusion. Ezra seized the opening. Sword raised, he darted forward and knocked aside an armed figure who tried to hack at Alara's barrier. He parried a second blow with lethal grace, pivoting to deliver a counterstrike that left the attacker crumpled. Alara felt the strain in her arms as more conspirators slammed the shield. For a moment, she thought her power might buckle. "Steady," came Asina's voice in her thoughts. "You are not alone. Focus." Alara exhaled, tightening her mental hold on the barrier. Sweat beaded on her brow. She forced her attention to stay present, trusting Ezra to intercept any threat her magic didn't stop. A flurry of blades clashed behind her, accompanied by frightened cries from the fortress staff fleeing through side passages. Damien's voice cut through the chaos. "They're trying to push past us on the left. Lucas, watch that archer." A crossbowman emerged, aiming a bolt at one of the fortress guards. Alara willed her magic to shift, forming a shimmering shield that caught the arrow mid-flight. It clattered harmlessly to the floor, and the would-be victim shot her a grateful look. She felt her arm burn with the effort of sustaining these protections. "Alara, keep going," Ezra urged, slamming aside another attacker. "We can repel them if we hold this position a little longer." A group of conspirators rushed in with renewed vigor, trying to overpower Ezra, while hurling spears at the defenders. One spear grazed Alara's upper arm. She winced as bright pain flared, nearly breaking her focus. Gritting her teeth, she summoned a burst of energy that tore through the enemy line. Several foes staggered, eyes wide with fear. Struggling to stand upright, she glanced at the battered entrance. Bodies littered the floor, both conspirators and fortress defenders, while the moans of the wounded blended with the clang of steel. Her magic felt like a fever, pulsing through her veins. She saw glimpses of frightened elders peering from the far end of the corridor, anxious to learn whether the fortress was lost. A fresh wave of intruders poured in, threatening to overwhelm them. Rage and desperation fueled them, emboldened by their belief that stopping Alara's bond with Ezra would prevent the fortress from becoming unstoppable. Alara felt their hatred like a knife against her senses. She channeled Asina's strength, sending a rippling shield to push them back. Ezra took advantage, charging in with determined fury, his sword a blur in the smoky light. Lucas and Damien coordinated with the warriors to block a second infiltration point near the eastern wing. The fortress rang with combat from every direction, resonating off the walls in a cacophony of metal and screams. Alara's heart hammered, but she drew confidence from Ezra's presence. His swift movements radiated command, and her own magic leapt to match his force. Suddenly, an assassin slipped through the wreckage, hood drawn low, creeping behind Ezra. Alara's heart jolted. She recognized this, the moment she had foreseen in her vision, where a blade arced toward Ezra's back. Terror seized her, and time seemed to slow. With a raw cry, she flung out her hand. Her magic erupted in a focused blast, hitting the assassin just as he prepared to strike. The conspirator flew backward, crashing to the ground in a daze. Ezra whirled and finished him with a single swing. When the dust settled, Alara's breath caught. She realized she'd prevented the scene from her nightmare, saving Ezra at the last possible instant. Pain throbbed in her wounded arm, and her energy felt dangerously low, but elation surged in her chest. "Thank you," Ezra said, voice tense with adrenaline. He slashed at another foe, forcing them to retreat. "You saw that coming." She nodded, tears pricking her eyes. "I couldn't let you die." The battle raged around them, but in that second, their gazes locked with fierce mutual relief. Damien, covered in dust and blood, bounded over. "Lucas took a squad to lock down the eastern corridors. We need you two to hold the main hall. Conspirators are scattered, but they're still dangerous." A warrior cried out for help. Alara fought past the haze of fatigue to project another wave of magic, forcing two attackers away from a fallen guard. She heard them grunt in fear, stumbling backward. Several defenders moved in to subdue them. Every time she used her powers, she felt her heart thunder, the cost of this magic draining her body. Yet Asina's voice remained firm. "Stand your ground." When the conspirators finally began to retreat, Alara staggered in relief. The floor was slick with debris and blood, and battered men and women slumped against walls, exhausted. A faint hush replaced the earlier roar of combat, broken only by moans and ragged breathing. Alara let her shield drop. She caught herself against the rubble, arms trembling. "It's over for now," Damien gasped, wiping sweat from his brow. "We have prisoners. Some tried to fight until the end. Others surrendered." Ezra's expression was grim. "We'll need to question them. Where's Lucas?" "Still clearing the corridors," Damien replied. "You should get your arm looked at, Alara." She pressed a hand against the shallow cut, nodding. "I will, but first I need to be sure there's no second wave lurking." Ezra glanced down at her, his concern evident. "We'll do a quick check and then see the healers." A few elders ventured from behind splintered doors. One with white hair, who had doubted Alara before, stared at the carnage with haunted eyes. "Is the fortress secure? We heard shouting in the eastern wing." Damien spoke up. "We believe the main threat is contained, but some conspirators may still be hiding. The elders should gather in a safe area until we finish sweeping the halls." Alara forced her legs to move. She could not shake the feeling of another threat waiting in the wings. The conspirators had said they would do anything to kill her or Ezra before their bond could strengthen. Leading a group of loyal warriors, she and Ezra traversed the battered corridors, pushing through the acrid haze of smoke. Servants huddled in corners, trembling. Her bandaged arm stung, but she pressed on. Near the courtyard, they spotted another pocket of fighting. Lucas and his squad were outnumbered by a fierce cluster of attackers. Crossbows flashed, and one arrow nicked a loyal guard's leg. Alara gritted her teeth, mustering enough magic to shield them. Lucas swung a broadsword, and the conspirators, realizing they were cornered, tried to dash for another exit. Warriors cut them off. A sudden hush fell as the conspirators dropped their weapons, turning to flee. Alara sent a brief wave of energy to trip the last runner. He hit the flagstones with a thud. Lucas dashed over, chest heaving. "We found these scum trying to sabotage the courtyard gates. Good timing." Ezra inhaled, eyes scanning the courtyard. "We need to secure every possible entrance. Some might still be outside, ready to break in." One of the newly captured conspirators glowered at Alara. "You might have the advantage now, but we will not stop." Ezra's voice dropped dangerously. "Take them to the cells. Damien will handle interrogations." Lucas saluted and began leading the prisoners away. Alara rested a hand on Ezra's arm. She could sense how tense he was. "We'll finish this," she murmured. "I can feel the fortress calming. But we should check the elders next. If I were planning a final strike, I would aim there." They navigated a half-collapsed passage where broken lanterns and smashed crates littered the floor, making it difficult to walk. Every shadow felt menacing, but Asina guided Alara's senses. She tasted flickers of hostility on the air, still present, if faint. Whenever they passed a battered guard or frightened servant, Ezra paused to offer quick words of reassurance. At last, they reached the elders' chamber, where a group of them stood with worried faces. A ring of defenders guarded the doors. One elder stepped forward, voice wavering. "Alpha, Alara, is it safe?" Ezra nodded warily. "We've contained most of the threat. Remain here a little longer. We need to confirm no other conspirators are disguised or hiding." A frail elder stared at Alara's bloodied sleeve, eyes brimming with gratitude. "We saw how you fought. Your magic might have saved us all." "I did what was necessary," Alara answered, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. The memory of conjuring shields and blasts of force still made her muscles ache. A guard ran up panting to report that a saboteur had forced open the armory door. Ezra swore under his breath. "Damien, guard the elders," he said to the beta. "Alara, come with me. We'll check the armory." Damien glanced at Alara's injury. "Can you manage?" "I have enough strength left," she said. "Let's finish this." Armory corridors glowed in sputtering torchlight. Several weapon racks were overturned and crossbows were missing. A single conspirator crouched near scattered crates, rummaging for supplies. He spotted them and fired a bolt straight at Alara. She managed to conjure a hurried barrier, deflecting the projectile with a clang. Ezra lunged, striking the man's shoulder with the hilt of his sword. The conspirator dropped to his knees, crossbow clattering away. Ezra hoisted him upright, fury blazing in his eyes. "How many more of you are here?" The prisoner's sneer said it all. "Enough to make sure you and your mate never fulfill your bond." Alara's magic flared in anger, but she tamped it down. "You fail to see that your cause is lost." A handful of guards arrived, and Ezra handed the prisoner off. "Lock him up. Gather every conspirator in the cells for questioning." They moved through the fortress's lower levels, capturing a few more stragglers. Alara's limbs felt as though they carried lead. At last, the sounds of fighting ebbed. Warriors dragged the final detainees to the makeshift holding cells, while exhausted defenders slumped against the walls. Ezra led Alara toward a corridor filled with moans and whispered pleas. Healers had set up an impromptu station for the wounded. Blood stained the stones, and the air smelled of herbs and sweat. A weary healer beckoned Alara forward to clean and rebandage her arm. "You saved many lives tonight," the healer murmured, quickly wrapping fresh cloth around the wound. "We all saw what you can do." Alara offered a tight smile, then closed her eyes, letting the healer's soothing presence numb the pain. Ezra stood guard over her, scanning the corridor for signs of lingering threat. Occasionally they heard a crash or muffled shouts from the distance, but the chaos was winding down. Damien and Lucas soon joined them, both dust-streaked and grim. "We've questioned a few prisoners," Damien said quietly. "They claim more conspirators wait outside the fortress. They might plan another attack once they regroup." Lucas brushed hair out of his eyes. "But for now, we have the fortress under control. The cells are full, and the rest of the saboteurs are dead or fled." Alara's pulse kicked. "We need to post guards everywhere. If another wave comes, we can't be caught off guard." Ezra nodded. "We'll keep a watch through the night. With the gates damaged, we'll have to rely on loyal scouts to warn of any reinforcements." An elder hurried down the corridor, eyes filled with relief. "Alpha, Alara. The immediate threat seems past. The fortress might have fallen were it not for you." Ezra's shoulders sagged with a mixture of exhaustion and gratitude. Many fought bravely. Alara's powers protected countless lives. We still have much to do to ensure no more conspirators hide among us. The elder's gaze darted from Alara's torn sleeve to the battered defenders around them. "We will assist you however we can. After tonight, none of us can deny the importance of your bond. If fear of your union spurred such an attack, we must stand behind you." Before Alara could respond, another elder arrived, trembling with anxiety. "We must reorganize. Half our watchmen are injured or worse. Let us know how to help." Ezra flicked a glance at Alara. She nodded, mustering her voice. "Coordinate the healers and reassign those who can still fight to guard the entrances. Everyone else should remain together in case there's a second assault." The elders exchanged uncertain looks, but they nodded in agreement. The fact that Alara was speaking with authority, and that her words carried weight, was not lost on anyone. Despite her fatigue, she pressed on, Sensing their respect, she felt a flicker of hope. A hush fell over the hall as they surveyed the aftermath. Guards moved wounded men onto makeshift cots, and a few healers scurried by with bandages and salves. Alara leaned against a broken pillar, the ache in her body a constant reminder of how hard she had pushed her powers. Yet the fortress still stood. The conspirators were largely subdued, and Ezra was alive, thanks in part to her vision. He drew closer, voice low. "You should rest, Alara. You've done enough." She closed her eyes, letting his warmth steady her. "Only if you will, too." Damien motioned them away from the bustle. "I'll see to the sweeps. Lucas, you handle the prisoners. Both of you," he looked pointedly at Ezra and Alara, "should find a quieter spot. You've both been on the front line all night." They agreed, making their way to a corridor near the courtyard, where the floor was littered with broken torches and rubble. The sky overhead was brightening with the first hint of morning, revealing the courtyard's scorched walls. A bitter wind swept through the open arch, stirring the dust of a long, harrowing night. Alara paused at the spot where she had saved Ezra, her heart twisting at the sight of dried blood and shattered stone. Even with her bandage, her arm throbbed. Yet she drew strength from the memory that the assassin's blade had missed her vision, thwarted by her intervention. Ezra's gaze traced the same spot. He turned to her, eyes shining with profound relief. "You changed fate for me. I don't know how to thank you." She clasped his hand. "You've already done more than enough fighting beside me, letting me be more than just someone to protect." He pressed his forehead to hers. "We stand as equals." The fortress's defenders continued moving around them, a flurry of activity as weapons were gathered and debris cleared. One by one, they nodded at Alara and Ezra, relief etched on their faces. Some paused to offer words of thanks, others, weary and limping, saluted with battered arms. Damien soon returned, gesturing for them to follow him through the corridor, where the last conspirators had been tracked down. The cells lay beneath a spiral staircase, their iron bars warped from years of disuse. Now they were crammed with prisoners. Several glared at Alara. Others sank into corners in silent despair. One man, the would-be assassin in the courtyard, stood chained, his lip curled with hatred. "We serve a cause greater than you," he snarled. "You think you can hold us forever?" Ezra's jaw clenched. "We'll find out who leads you. If another wave waits outside, we'll stop them too." Alara watched the assassin's confidence falter, though he quickly masked it with a sneer. She sensed beneath his bravado a flicker of doubt, as if his side's defeat had shaken him. Damien nodded at the guards, who dragged the man away to a separate cell for interrogation. Lucas arrived, wiping blood from his brow. "No more active resistance in the corridors. We found a few hiding, but they've been caught." Ezra ran a hand through his hair, glancing at Alara. "Then we need to regroup, see who was lost. We can't be sure the worst is over until we confirm no second wave is about to hit our weakened gates." Damien frowned. "Some of the prisoners mentioned an outside force, but we have no proof they're about to attack right now. We do need to double the guard at every entry." Alara sank onto a step, letting her racing thoughts slow. Her entire body yearned to collapse from exhaustion, but duty called. "We can't let them slip away if a new group tries to approach." Ezra rested a hand on her uninjured shoulder, voice firm with compassion. "You've gone beyond your limits already." She nodded. "I'll hold on a bit longer. We can't let them outmaneuver us." Word of Alara's deed spread through the fortress. Several elders ventured to the cells, anxious to see the conspirators who had terrorized them. Most recognized that she had saved the pack with her shields and blasts of power. A wiry elder, once openly skeptical of her, approached her with a trembling bow. "Alara, I apologize for my earlier doubt. Without your gifts, we might all be dead." A wave of humility passed through her. "I only did what anyone would, given the chance." As dawn broke fully, exhausted warriors guided the elders to secure chambers, ensuring no conspirators remained in hiding. Gradually, the fortress settled into a ragged calm. The moans of the injured lessened as healers worked tirelessly. Broken gates and shattered doors stood as reminders of how close they had come to devastation. Ezra helped Alara to a quiet, half-intact hallway where a table and a few chairs remained upright. She slumped into a chair, arm throbbing, power drained. He stood behind her, hands gently on her shoulders, offering silent comfort. Neither spoke for a long moment, letting the fortress's background noise fill the space. "They meant to kill us both," Ezra said at last, his voice edged with simmering anger. "At least now we see how serious these conspirators are about preventing our bond." Alara tilted her head back, gaze meeting his. "We'll have to learn more about my lineage, about what exactly they fear. If they believe we'll become unstoppable, we must find a way to harness that power responsibly." Ezra nodded. "We'll search the archives again, but first we rebuild, bury our dead, and ensure the fortress is secure." She closed her eyes, letting the momentary peace quell her racing heart. "We faced them, and we won. But I know it's not over." He touched her cheek. "No matter what's next, we stand together." Lucas approached, clearing his throat softly. "We've set extra guards on the gates and posted watchers on the walls. Damien is organizing cleanup crews. The elders want to address the survivors once we confirm no further attacks." Alara rose shakily, ignoring the protest in her limbs. "Then let's confirm it. The fortress deserves a measure of safety before we rest." Ezra stayed close, guiding her through corridors where dust still hung in the lamplight. They passed groups of defenders stacking weapons, servants gingerly stepping over bodies, and a few elders whispering somberly about the extent of the damage. With each step, Alara felt her powers flicker in and out, as if even they were too weary to remain fully awakened. At length they emerged into the Great Hall, the site of the first breach. Sunlight streamed through the half-collapsed doorway, illuminating cracked pillars and broken furniture. She glimpsed torn banners lying in heaps. Yet, many warriors stood proud, battered but alive, saluting the Alpha and his mate. Amid the wreckage, Alara sensed a quiet camaraderie. Damien was there, scanning a clipboard. "We've checked every corridor," he told them. "All remaining conspirators are captured or dead. The fortress is battered, but it still stands. Some elders insist on giving a speech soon." Ezra let out a long breath. "That can wait. Everyone is exhausted. Once we have numbers on the wounded, we'll address them." Alara murmured her agreement. The pack is safe but on edge. She found a spot to rest near a damaged column. A few elders, accompanied by staff members, gathered around them. One elder tried to speak, but words failed him as he surveyed the carnage. Another reached out to gently place a hand on Alara's shoulder. "Your bravery changed everything." She swallowed, recalling her vision of Ezra's near death. "I did what I had to." Ezra's gaze locked with hers. "And I will not forget it. I owe you my life." Warriors brought in the last of the captured conspirators, escorted under heavy guard to the cells. The fortress fell into a collective hush. Those who were not wounded busied themselves with hauling rubble or reinforcing damaged doors. A few servants began gathering food and clean water for the defenders. Lucas arranged rotating patrols, determined not to let a single gap remain in their watch. Eventually, a messenger arrived to confirm that any external forces appeared to be withdrawing, likely sensing their attack had failed. Alara's shoulders sagged in relief, though tension still lined her features. She could not shake the feeling that they had only encountered the beginning of a far larger conspiracy. Damien gestured for her to follow him to the courtyard, where the sky stretched pale gold with morning light. The place where she had saved Ezra glimmered with fresh bloodstains on the stone. Alara stared at that spot, remembering the assassin's deadly intent and how close they had come to ruin. Damien's voice was hushed. "We lost many good people tonight, but we saved countless more. You proved your worth, Alara." She nodded, voice trembling. "I just hope we can prevent more bloodshed." Ezra appeared behind her, speaking quietly. "We'll try with everything we have." Lucas and several fortress defenders joined them. One by one, the warriors bowed their heads to Alara and Ezra, an unspoken gesture of faith in their leadership. In a matter of days, she had gone from feeling like an unwanted outsider to standing at the center of the fortress's survival. Alara stepped closer to Ezra, letting her head rest lightly against his shoulder. Her wound still throbbed, and fatigue coursed through every muscle. But relief flooded her heart. She felt Asena's silent affirmation. This was the path they were meant to walk, together, forging a future that defied the conspirators' hatred. Ezra pressed a gentle kiss to her temple, a quiet vow passing between them. The fortress, though battered, stood as a testament to their combined resilience. Alara knew larger threats loomed, that the conspirators feared what she and Ezra could become if their bond continued to grow. Yet for now she took solace in the new dawn's light, in the hush that replaced the night's carnage, and in the pack's acceptance that her power had saved them all. Her last glimpse of the courtyard showed healers tending to the wounded under the climbing sun, the fortress warriors standing alert at every exit, and the elders joining hands in a subdued prayer. Alara inhaled, forcing her battered body to remain upright a bit longer. She and Ezra would lead them forward. Whatever perils waited beyond these walls, they would meet them side by side, hearts and powers intertwined.